The Red Sox sweep of the Tigers showed that they are capable of being a winning baseball team.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, my name is Gabby Maljanian, and on today's show, a starting pitcher came back from the IL and pitched effectively despite not making a rehab start. Framber Valdez faced a significant consequence for his actions in this series. And most importantly, the Red Sox sweep the Tigers. What exactly does that mean for this team moving forward? So obviously it's been a crazy last couple weeks, really, for the Boston Red Sox. So many coaching changes and reshuffling and guys going on the injured list and just lots of moving parts, really, for this team as of late. And the biggest thing through all of those changes that everyone's been hoping to see is just consistently good baseball and a team that shows that it is capable of winning. And that's exactly what we saw from this Red Sox team in this series against the Tigers. And boy, did they need that. After this series that they just now played against the Tigers, while they may still be in last place in the AL East, they are now tied with the Blue Jays for last place at 16-21, but they are only a game behind the Baltimore Orioles. And I know what you're saying, it's way too early to be focusing on standings, which yes, it is, but we should be keeping in mind that the Red Sox have gained a little bit of ground on some of those division foes because they have started to win games. And it's been great to see this team be able to find some consistency. And I'm hoping that they're able to maintain that consistency. They are 7-4 in their last 11 games. And that's pretty stellar. And if you had told me about a month ago that going into the beginning of May and where we're at now, that we would be saying that this team is winning more games than they're losing, it would be hard to believe because this team was off to such a bad start in the month of April that it really just doesn't feel real, but it is. They've won 3 straight now and have a 2.57 earned run average in their last 11 games. In the last 4 games, they've gotten really good starting pitching too. Ranger Suarez, Peyton Tolley, Brian Bayo, and Sonny Gray allowed a combined 1 earned run in 23.0 innings pitched. That's a .39 earned run average. The Red Sox have only made 4 errors in their last 21 games, and they actually lead the league in defensive runs saved right now. And there was good defense on display in this series against the Tigers, again, most notably in this game last night, in which the Red Sox won 4-0. Wilyer Abreu made a diving catch early in the game with Sonny Gray on the mound, and the bases were loaded for the Tigers, and he saved what probably would have been at least 2 runs, maybe even 3. And that just goes to show how strong of an outfield defense the Red Sox have. Wilyer Abreu is a 2-time Gold Glover in line to win a 3rd this year. So that's why he's going to continue to play right field every day, because you want his defense out there. So good defense certainly is something that we should be focusing on and taking away from this series against the Tigers, because the Red Sox just truly played clean defense. Caleb Durbin has been really solid at 3rd base. Marcelo has been good at 2nd base. And then there's Trevor Story at shortstop, who has always in his career been known to be a good defender. But Willson Contreras, I mean, he has been above advertised defensively. And going into this season when the Red Sox traded for him, I expected him to be a good defender, but I didn't expect him to be this good. He's made some very nice plays in this series and just this season in general, some nice diving or sliding plays at first base where he's getting balls that a lot of other first basemen would not have been able to get. And there is a benefit to being a catcher that turns first baseman, because you're able to have a lot of awareness of the game and what's going on. And when the ball is hit to first base, you kind of know and have a feel for where you have to travel to get it. So this is a guy who's done very good things defensively overall for this team, and the outfield goes without saying how good the defense is there. So one of my biggest standout about this series was that strong defense that the Red Sox portrayed, helping to bail out their pitchers in more case than one, and just making clean plays and playing clean baseball. I mean, this is a team that early on in the season was making more errors, and as of late has just been playing a lot cleaner of baseball. And guys are starting to find their stride. Now, obviously, they're not going to play perfect baseball all season long. There's going to be games where they make fielding errors. It does happen. It's just part of the game. But overall, if you take their defensive numbers from early April compared to now, there is a difference. And I'm glad that guys are starting to figure that out a little bit on the defensive side of the ball. And we saw a mix of everything in this series from this Red Sox team. The first game, we saw the Red Sox ability to close out a tight game in which they won 5-4. And while they did have a lot of hits with 12 in that game, the Tigers kind of kept it within striking distance. And that was the game where it was the bad weather and they went into that rain delay. And the Red Sox went down 2-0, but were able to rally and get some big hits to show that the offense is capable of getting those big hits. And then the second game of the series, they scored 10 runs. So that was just an absolute explosion. Ironically, they had the same number of hits as they had in the first game with 12, but they were just able to capitalize more in that game and just kept piling on the runs. And one big thing that the Red Sox did in this series as a whole was they just kept the line moving. When guys were on base, other guys were coming in and getting a hit, and it wasn't as much focused on, okay, I need to hit a home run right now. It's I need to make contact and move this guy over. And that was a lot of what they were doing. And then in the last game of the series, the Red Sox won 4-0. They actually only had 4 hits in this game. And they also, as a team, had 15 strikeouts. So if you look at those numbers, you say, okay, 15 strikeouts, 4 hits as a team, they must have lost. But it was thanks to the pitching that they were able to hold on in that game. So it's very rare that you see a team have those numbers, 15 strikeouts and 4 hits, and win the game still. And a win is a win, but that is definitely still something to note is, yes, the Red Sox offense was really good for the first couple of days of the series, but then we saw some of the same problems that we've seen on offense from this team over the course of the season come into play in last night's game. Masataka Yoshida absolutely is somebody who should be in the lineup every single night. 2 hits for him last night. And the problem with putting him in the lineup every night is you're kind of losing some value elsewhere because he is a one-dimensional player who's a really good hitter, but isn't really a huge threat on the base paths or defensively. So if you have him play every day, you have to lose one of your outfielders who's a little bit more diverse and can do a little bit more to make an impact than Yoshida. So that's why it's hard to justify Yoshida playing every day. If they had one less outfielder, he could DH every day and then it would make sense. But because that's not the case right now, when they do find ways to get Yoshida into the lineup, at least he's making an impact. And 2 hits last night was a prime example of that. So him getting 2 hits in the lineup and him continuously making good contact when he is in the lineup should at least drive up his trade value to the point where there may be teams that reach out to the Red Sox about him. Now, teams will be hesitant to take him because of the money that he's owed moving forward and also the inconsistencies that he's shown over the course of his time in Boston. But if he continues to hit really well, there could be a team that decides to bite. Now, the Red Sox would probably have to take on a good portion of the salary, but that could help them to at least clear the logjam and maybe make way for adding a player that makes sense for this team. Yoshida is batting .310 now on the season with a .420 on base percentage and .379 slugging percentage. He was the biggest offensive standout for this team in the game last night. So 2 hits for him, 1 for Marcelo Meyer and 1 for Caleb Durbin. 2 guys who have really gotten going as of late. It took both of them a while to figure things out at the plate, but it seems like both Wilyer and Durbin are developing a little bit more confidence at the plate now, and they're able to string together good at-bats. Caleb Durbin, we're seeing a lot more competitive at-bats from him in general than we saw earlier on in the season, and that's great to see because there was a lot of pressure on him when he came to Boston. Red Sox fans were waiting for Craig Breslow to make this big trade. So then he traded for Caleb Durbin, and he was disappointing to start the season. And a lot of that most likely had to do with the fact that he was changing teams, going to a new environment, having to adjust to different things. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into that, but that was one of the biggest things I pointed out as to why Caleb Durbin could have been struggling. And I said, let's be patient with him. And he seems to be starting to figure things out now, which is absolutely a positive. So the offense in the final game of the series wasn't as good as it was earlier on in the series. It's not like the Red Sox were hitting all around. They did take a good amount of walks, though, in this game. 7 walks as a team in last night's game. So that was another example of something they did well. A mix of patient at-bats and really aggressive at-bats. And on a lot of the aggressive at-bats, they were swinging first pitch or just not really working the count much. And then when they saw a good pitch, they were making good contact on it. And Jack Flaherty ended up struggling after the first couple innings because the Red Sox kind of pounced on him. So you did see a little bit of a mix of everything, of guys being capable of having patient at-bats with all the walks they took and being able to try and capitalize on those moments. And the problem was they still didn't really capitalize on those moments fully. They did leave 8 on base and only went 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position. And that's kind of been the story of this Red Sox offense so far this season. It's been up and down, but there are still some of those same common issues, like too many strikeouts overall as a team and not being able to advance runners that are on. But we saw in the first 2 games, they were advancing those runners well. So I really was happy about that. But the biggest thing that is worth noting in this game, when you take the defense and how strong it was, you take the offense, especially in the first 2 games, and the fact that it took care of business. But the starting pitching was solid in this series. Game 1 of the series, they had Peyton Tolle pitch. He pitched an absolute gem, 7 innings, 1 hit, 2 runs, but neither of them were earned runs, 1 walk and 8 strikeouts. I mean, talk about a kid who's just developed so much confidence, and he deserves to be in the rotation more permanently now. So really outstanding outing from him in the Red Sox 5-4 win. Then the next night when the Red Sox won 10-3, they started with an opener, Giovanni Moran. He didn't have his best stuff. He gave up 2 earned runs on 3 hits in the first inning of the game. And the plan was for him to open for Brayan Bello to see if that would help Bello at all to get back on track. And it did, because he then went in and he pitched 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts. So a solid outing for him as well to keep the Tigers off the board. And then in the last game of the series, they got really good pitching too that I'm going to be talking about a little bit more. But the pitching in general in this series is definitely important to note, because this is a Red Sox team that, while going into the season, we were really excited about the starting rotation that they were going to have. There's, of course, some hesitations when it comes to that confidence if the team starts to struggle and the pitching isn't performing up to par. And earlier on in the season, we did see some of these starters struggling a lot. Brayan Bello and Ranger Suarez weren't really figuring it out. Sonny Gray has been up and down. So you have to wonder, well, is this Red Sox rotation really what it's hyped up to be? We certainly saw a lot of strong pitching in that series, and I'm hoping to see more of that over time. But coming up, Framber Valdez facing consequences for his on-the-field actions the other night. If you're dealing with a lot of workplace chaos and a lot of deadlines that are stacking up, the one position that you have to fill is still sitting open. That's where Indeed Sponsored Jobs comes into play for you. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location, so that you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnRedSox. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnRedSox right now and support this show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/LockedOnRedSox. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Don't forget also to check out the Everydayer Club for ad-free episodes and access to a group chat with me as well as other listeners of this show. Tap the link in the show notes or go to lockedonredsox.supercast.com for more information and to subscribe so you get all kinds of perks, including one-on-one texting with me directly in the all access tier. Sweep, sweep, sweep. That's a word ringing through Boston as the Boston Red Sox just took down the Detroit Tigers in the form of a sweep in Detroit. And while I talked about a lot of things that I liked in this series, and there certainly were a lot of things to be excited about moving forward, the biggest question is going to be consistency. Can they maintain this moving forward? We have seen them go on 1 3-game winning streak earlier on in the season, and then things kind of unraveled a little bit again. And this is a Tigers team that has struggled to find its stride this year. But the Red Sox are now going to be facing a Rays team this weekend that's been very good this season so far. So this is going to be a test for them on can they compete with the better teams in the American League, or are they still a step behind? So this is a big series if they're able to carry that momentum over into it. But among all of the good things that happened in this series, there was also a benches clearing incident that hopefully sparked this Red Sox team to continue to produce at a high level. And essentially what happened was Framber Valdez was starting the game for the Tigers, and he gave up back-to-back home runs to Willson, Contreras, and Wilyer, Abreu. And this was after he had already gotten smashed earlier. So he had already given up a good number of runs to this Red Sox team already. But so he was just so fed up, and in what I feel was retaliation, trying to get himself out of the game, he purposely hit Trevor Story in the back with what would be his only four-seam fastball that he's thrown the entirety of this season. I mean, come on, it's the only one you've thrown, and you say that it wasn't on purpose, because after this whole thing happened, Valdez said he didn't mean to hit Trevor Story, but the Red Sox were in complete disagreement. Chad Tracy was also in complete disagreement and said it was weak when he hit Story, and honestly, good for him. He's not afraid to call people out, even though he's, a week or so on the job as the Red Sox interim manager. So I thought that was really cool of him to call out the behavior, but he was probably so frustrated with the outing because he was getting rocked and AJ Hinch wasn't pulling him, and he wanted no part of being in that game anymore. So he found his own way out. So he ended up getting ejected from the game due to all that. And then yesterday, which was the day after this happened, Major League Baseball announced that he was going to be suspended for 6 games due to what went down. And then the suspension ended up then getting knocked down to 5 games, most likely because he ended up deciding not to appeal, because you can appeal a suspension if you're a player. If you're a manager, you cannot. And AJ Hinch also got a 1-game suspension for last night's game, and that couldn't be changed. But Valdez, as a player, has the opportunity to appeal that type of thing. And then when the suspension was later reduced to 5 games, that's likely because he either didn't appeal or chose to drop an appeal. So then they dropped it down to 5 games. He'll be eligible to return on May 12th. He did not expect to see the suspension coming. He said, I do not expect to get suspended. Basically, before this all happened, he said if it would have been on purpose, I would have gone towards the hitter saying something, yelling something, threatening them or something like that, which didn't happen. I was just calm, just staying out of the situation. I let the benches clear and nothing happened. I even left the field in a quiet way because, of course, it was not on purpose. So, yeah, right. I mean, hard to believe that it wasn't on purpose. But AJ Hinch didn't stick up for him either after the situation, which was also pretty telling that it probably was on purpose, because AJ Hinch basically said that it wasn't okay. He said, we play a really good brand of baseball here. That didn't feel like it. It's not judging intent. I have no idea, but I know when you go out on the field and you end up sort of in those confrontations, you usually feel like you're in your right, and it didn't feel good being out there. So I understand your frustrations. I understand the moment, and it was a low moment of a frustrating night. So AJ Hinch not coming to his players' defense shows that he also didn't agree with it. And if he didn't agree with it, that's probably because he did it on purpose. So this is a very reasonable and much needed punishment. He should be suspended, because you don't just throw at guys intentionally like that because you want to get out of the game. And the Red Sox, it seemed like, were ready to go into last night's game not holding grudges and just go out and win a baseball game and basically prove it on the field instead of letting their emotions get the best of them. And that's exactly what they did. They went out there and they won 4-0. Obviously, the bats weren't overly productive, but they still were able to secure the series sweep. And by suspending Valdez, this definitely sends a message that it's not okay for players to do something like that. And him being suspended for 5 games, I mean, he's not really going to miss much, especially because he is a starting pitcher. So he only throws every 5 days as it is. But it is sending a message of, hey, this wasn't cool what you did. And you're not just going to be able to get away with it no matter what you say, even if you say it wasn't intentional, because that is exactly what he said. Word for word, it was not intentional. It might look like it, but it wasn't. I was trying to throw strikes after the 2 consecutive home runs. I was trying to go back in the zone, and that pitch came out of my hand. Trevor Story disputed that claim altogether and said it's pretty undisputable. I was in there ready to hit, and it showed up way behind me and off the numbers. We all know what's what. So Trevor Story wasn't buying it. Chad Tracy wasn't buying it. Obviously, it's just not a good look in general. And the Red Sox broadcast booth was also fuming over the situation as well. They were like, what is going on here? Why is he doing this? Basically, Will Middlebrooks, an SN analyst, said you can't get them out, so you throw at them. What a joke. The one guy who caused it is hiding in the back. This was after the benches cleared and both dugouts came out. Valdez was basically hiding behind his teammates, which is a tough look for him. And then Dave O'Brien said that is weak. You give up 3 home runs, back-to-back shots, and then you drill Trevor Story. So they both were infuriated. Middlebrooks added, well, let's just hope he doesn't cross up his catcher now that he's mad, because Valdez has been known to take out his frustrations on his own catcher. And he didn't do that in this game, but he intentionally hit a player from the other team, and that's just not cool. I know it's frustrating when you get beaten down like that as a pitcher, but you have to be able to control your emotions a little bit more. And why is this so relevant to the Red Sox? Because obviously, for one, it was against them. But for 2, by the league suspending Valdez, it sends a message to the Red Sox that they hear them, they're with them. And that gives them hopefully a little bit more validation of, okay, the league is on our side. There's nothing we could have done better. They took notice of it. I mean, everybody on Twitter has been talking about it. So it shows that the league has their backs, which hopefully gives the Red Sox a little bit more confidence to say, okay, that wasn't cool. Now we have a fire in us to go out there and beat this team. And that ultimately ended up carrying over into the series finale. Now, another aspect of all of this is because it really shows team unity. The fact that guys were going out there, out of the dugout to back up Trevor Story, basically saying, hey, this is my teammate, don't mess with my teammate. That shows that they're all playing for each other. They're all there now saying, okay, we are one big team and we all want to succeed together. If one of us goes down, we all go down. And if one of us goes up, we all want to go up with him. And immediately everybody started running out of the dugout, and that just shows that they're forming this team bond that hopefully carries over into the rest of the season, because I talk about it all the time. It's not just about the product on the field. It's also about the quality off the field of the relationships that these guys have with each other, because the better relationships they have with each other, naturally, the better they're going to play. If they're in sync a little bit more with each other, if they're getting along, it's going to give them an extra motivation to want to win games with each other. So being able to establish and create a really strong atmosphere in the clubhouse isn't always talked about enough, but it's something that Chad Tracy has definitely been doing well. And it was something I knew he'd be able to do well upon him getting called up to be the interim manager from Worcester. That was one of the first things I said was he really understands these younger players, so he should be able to help formulate a strong clubhouse environment. And that's something that the guys definitely, you can tell, appreciate. They're laughing, they're smiling. And this whole benches clearing incident and the fact that the league was on their side gives these Red Sox players no reason to be mad at anybody but Framber Valdez and the Tigers and to take it out on them. And that's exactly what they did going into the next game. So hopefully this gives them as a team a fire that they can continue to light and grow moving forward throughout the rest of the season and say, hey, don't mess with us. We are one team. So Valdez suspended, rightfully so, hit Trevor Story, likely on purpose. And here we are now. And they got swept by the Red Sox. So ultimately, the revenge happened by the Red Sox play on the field. But coming up, somebody who helped contribute to that sweep was Sonny Gray, who returned from the injured list in last night's game. I love Game Time so much, and the biggest reason I love it more than any other ticketing vendor is it's because it's the app that gives back to you. So while getting tickets can feel like a grind, it doesn't have to with Game Time, because the Game Time app gives fans the advantage with constant innovation. It's how you unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. It's simple to use. The Game Time guarantee means you get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time at the best price. And here's the best part. Fees are included in the price you see, so what you see is what you pay, period. 2 taps and it's done. No stress, no hidden fees, great seats and minutes. That's what makes it so easy to decide last minute to hit a game. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Game Time truly is the best ticketing vendor because not only are tickets cheaper than they are on other sites, but it also shows you the view from your seat before you buy so that you can make sure it's not obstructed. So that way you ensure that you are getting the best experience possible. So next time you're looking for tickets, Game Time is your place. I don't know about you, but I very much enjoyed the Red Sox sweeping the Tigers this week. I thought that was a lot of fun, and every game in the series was different. The first game was a close game. The Red Sox had to turn to their high leverage arms to try to close that one out. The second game was a complete blowout. The Red Sox winning 10-3. The bats just had it going on, and then in game 3 of the series, the pitching certainly held it down because the offense didn't have its best game. But that's the recipe for success at the highest level, is having a good balance of a strong offense, strong defense, and strong pitching. And the Red Sox showed semblances of all of that at some point over the course of this series. And the problem all season long so far has been they haven't been able to put it all together. And they definitely have the talent. I still think they need another big bat to add to the lineup, but they have the talent to where they could be a playoff team if they start putting things together, and they need to just start stringing together a lot of wins and being more consistent. And somebody who can help with that consistency is Sonny Gray, who returned from the injured list for last night's game and threw 5 shutout innings, giving up 4 hits with 2 strikeouts and 2 walks. He threw 70 pitches, 44 for strikes, and now has a 3.54 ERA on the season. So going into this game last night, it was known that Sonny Gray was going to be on a pitch limit because Chad Tracy had said he would be. He didn't say what the number of pitches was. So him being pulled after 70 pitches, I would guess that was probably around what his pitch limit was. But he looked really good in this game. And I was a little bit concerned at first because he didn't go on a rehab assignment at all before coming off the IL. And sometimes with guys who come back from the injured list and don't make a rehab start, sometimes it ends up being a little bit too soon that they come back. Maybe they needed a start or two in the minors to really get themselves back on track. But that proved to be not the case for Sonny Gray because he was looking really good. That marked his first start since April 20th when he exited the Marathon Monday morning game, which ironically also happened to be a series finale against the Tigers. He exited that with a right hamstring injury, picking up where he left off. He needed just 70 pitches, 44 strikes to blank the Tigers for 5 innings. They managed 4 hits, 2 walks, and struck out twice. And Chad Tracy said he gave us everything and then some. So Chad Tracy was obviously really happy with the effort. And he went really smoothly through the first inning, 1, 2, 3 first. And then he benefited from a much improved Red Sox defense that entered the day leading the majors with 30 defensive runs saved and with 3 players leading or tied for the most defensive runs saved at their position in right fielder Wilyer Abreu, third baseman Caleb Durbin, and first baseman Willson Contreras. So those 3 have all played knockdown defense this year. And that defense definitely came into play because the Tigers loaded the bases in the second inning on a leadoff double by Riley Green and then back-to-back 2-out walks to Zach McKinstry and Spencer Torkelson. And then Jace Jung's subsequent liner to right center would have been an RBI hit against most teams and probably would have driven in 2 runs at the time, but not on Wilyer Abreu's watch. It had an expected batting average of 540. So the majority of the time, that's a hit. But Abreu, the back-to-back Gold Glover, raced in and made a sliding catch and managed to hang on as he rolled over. So he definitely bailed out Sonny Gray in that situation. Chad Tracy said our defense was awesome tonight. Wilyer makes a great play, which in my opinion changed the course of the game, keeping it zeros there. And then we score first instead of them. If that ball drops, it's 2-0 them. They score first, and then we're playing catch up. We were very, very good on the defensive side. Everything that goes up in the air or in the outfield in general, I feel like we got a shot at it. They're awfully good out there. And I totally agree. Wilyer Abreu changed the tone of the game at that point because if the Tigers go up 2-0, who knows how that game plays out? Granted, the Red Sox came from behind down 2-0 in the first game of this series, but it's exhausting always having to come from behind. So he changed the momentum of the game because by bailing out Sonny Gray there and keeping zeros on the board, the Red Sox were able to go from a tie to being in the lead and not having to constantly play catch up. So that was a huge moment in this game. But Sonny Gray definitely looked good, was executing all of his pitches really well, and a guy who only faced the minimum 15 days on the injured list, and he looked really good. And the interesting thing is, even though he did get base traffic and didn't look overly stellar in terms of how effective he was still able to throw put away pitches and was still able to work around base runners in all the innings. He did get a decent amount of base traffic, but he was able to be effective and got himself through 5 innings. And that's notable because this is a Red Sox rotation right now that feels like it's starting to shape out, but they still have Garrett Crochet on the IL. Ranger Suarez is still day-to-day as of now. Hopefully he'll be able to make his next start, but if Sonny Gray is able to dominate in the way that we've seen from him in some of his starts this year, that's massive for this Red Sox rotation. So it'll be interesting to see how things continue to play out with him. But I was really happy with what I saw, him being able to put up zeros and him being able to throw effectively since he kind of bypassed the rehab portion of the stint. So really excited to have him back. Hopefully he continues with the good outings, but this was a really strong series by the Red Sox. They did a lot of things well, and I'm really hoping that continues. So if you want to be along for the ride, make sure to continue to tune in Locked On Red Sox Monday through Friday. Subscribe and follow on any podcast platform so you get all of the latest episodes. Thank you so much for constantly tuning in and making it your first listen of every single day. I've interacted with numerous everyday listeners. And I truly mean from the bottom of my heart that I wouldn't be here without any of you. So thank you so much for your constant support of the show. Be sure to keep tuning in and also follow me on social media on Twitter at Gabby Maljanian or on Instagram at Gabby_Maljanian10. You can also follow the show on Twitter at LO_Red Sox. Make sure you follow me on those platforms. Plus, if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Red Sox ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonredsox.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, I now send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, for your second listen, go check out Locked On MLB. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. Keep the faith. Go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.